The parents and brother of U.S. Army First Lieutenant Michael Behenna were in Arlington, Virginia today to speak to the U.S. Army Clemency and Parole Board. Lieutenant Behenna of Edmond is serving a 15-year sentence in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas for unpremeditated murder in a combat zone. In 2008, he killed an Iraqi man suspected of being an al-Qaeda terrorist. Behenna said he killed the man in self-defense. Behenna's brother, Brett, who is an Oklahoma County prosecutor, spoke to the parole board this morning.
What I tried to get across to the board was that the sentence, the time Michael served is enough. And I think it's enough when you look at the factors that were involved in his case. The person he killed was a member of al-Qaeda. And he didn't kill him out of hatred, he didn't kill him out of anger. He shot him because that man reached for his gun. The whole reason Michael was in that situation to begin with was because he wanted to prevent a future IED attack on his fellow soldiers. He wanted to stop what had already occurred and two of his soldiers lost their lives. The only way he thought he could do that was question the person who was responsible for the attack, the person who had information about explosives, how they got there, where they came from. So that's what Michael was trying to do on that day, that night, in that culvert. And ultimately, Ali Mansour reached for his gun and Michael shot and killed him. And that's what I told the board. And I said, given that factual scenario, what punishment does justice? And we talked about a variety of factors for theories of punishment, from deterrence to retribution, and ultimately under each example I tried to just get across to them that the time Michael served, which is 4 years in prison, the fact that he will be dishonorably discharged from the military, the fact that he'll be a convicted felon for the rest of his life, the fact that he'll lose constitutional rights that every fellow American enjoys. All these things are a sufficient punishment, a punishment that's proportional and a punishment that does justice. And we asked them to release Michael and allow him to come home to his family. And I guess one last point that I wanted to make is I started the presentation by presenting a video of the most recent living recipient of the Congressional Medal of Honor winner. His name's Dakota Meyer. Dakota, his factual story, he was in Afghanistan. He was ordered to remain outside of the village while the remaining members of his platoon were in that village fighting. He was ordered 4 times to stay outside. Don't go get involved in the fight. Eventually, Dakota Meyer disobeyed those orders. He went inside, he fought for hours trying to save the members of his platoon inside that village. Ultimately, for that heroic action, for that act of valor, Dakota Meyer was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor, the highest military award that an individual can receive. And what I guess I wanted to demonstrate to the board was that no one knows what their outcome is going to be. You're just guided by principle when you make your decisions. And what Dakota Meyer talked about is sometimes we're taught to obey orders, but what's more important is your brotherhood, protecting your fellow soldiers. Michael acted on that very same principle. The outcomes were dramatically different. I mean, you could imagine a situation where Dakota Meyer left his post, entered that village, and some harm came from it. Maybe that position he was supposed to hold was no longer held, and the battle went terribly wrong because of it. At that point, Dakota Meyer wouldn't have been a hero. Likewise, you could imagine a situation where Michael questioned Ali Mansour, acting on that principle, and he learned all the information he needed. And an entire al-Qaeda cell was broken up in Arlington. But those aren't the way they ended up. They ended dramatically different. But both men operated on the same principle. And so what I tried to explain to the board, you're punishing him for a decision he made. And punishment is needed. But what he served is enough.
On a separate track, Behenna is asking the U.S. Supreme Court to review his case. In an interesting development, the Supreme Court has asked the U.S. Justice Department to tell the justices why they shouldn't hear the soldier's case.
I understand that the Supreme Court takes less than 1% of the cases that are filed before it annually, and so I know our chances are slim. It is encouraging to us that the Supreme Court has asked for a response from the government. We think that Michael's petition sets forth an issue of broader importance. It's not just Michael's case that's being litigated, it's whether or not soldiers have the right to act in self-defense. We think that is an issue of national importance, something that we hope the Supreme Court takes. And as I said, I'm more cautiously optimistic now that they've called for a response.